Welcome back to the show. Now, I'm very excited to talk to Ryan Richards, the Bunkhouse. How are you doing? Of Minturn, I should say. Bunkhouse of Minturn. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very good. Very excited to hear about the Bunkhouse because I've heard a lot about it, and I want to hear how it came to be, what your thought process was there. How did it start? How did the Bunkhouse start out?
Yeah, it started after the Great Recession, and during that time when Vail Resorts came out with the Epic Pass.
Okay.
Their vision and mission, from my understanding, was to make the sport more inclusive, where historically the sport has been exclusive based on cost.
True.
And,
yeah.
All of the expenses that come with that sport. And when the Epic Pass came out, it was around $500.
Oh my goodness.
And it was just, it became so much more inclusive
Right.
to skiers and snowboarders who have not historically been able to enjoy the sport. And I noticed that a lot of the younger generation was buying a ski pass.
Right.
And of course, we know I-70
Yes.
has been a cluster.
Yes.
Well, it wasn't like that in the early 2000s when I moved here. And that's how the Bunkhouse came to pass, recognizing that there were people across broad socioeconomic boundaries, and it became more inclusive. And so we recognized, my business partners, that they didn't have a place to stay. They weren't staying at the Four Seasons or the Ritz-Carlton or the Sebastian or the Sun and
And there was a need there that no one was really, okay, that's so cool. That's
Yep.
really, and why Minturn?
Minturn, it was really a stroke of luck
Okay.
on how it happened. We were looking at Edwards, Vail,
Yeah,
Avon, and some of it was cost prohibitive, but the biggest challenge was parking.
Oh, okay.
Was
Yep.
parking based on zoning and just the lack of infrastructure to have parking. And as the zoning was at the time,
Yeah.
you needed a parking spot per room or per bed.
Yes.
And most of the commercial locations that we looked at didn't have enough parking.
That's so
And it just so
interesting.
came to pass that the Union Pacific Railroad that owns the dirt lot at the end of Minturn,
Yeah.
we could lease spots from the town. And given that it was its own incorporation,
Yeah.
it was a little bit easier to convince the town council to let us do such a project.
Well, and I was going to say, what a beautiful spot, because Minturn is stunning. It's become such a hip space, and it's where the Bunkhouse is gorgeous. I mean, you can't get much better. The views are amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's absolutely stunning. So it was a win-win pretty much for you. And
Yes.
how long has the Bunkhouse been here?
8 years.
8 years. Okay. And what have you seen throughout those 8 years? Because I know a lot has happened, obviously, in 8 years in our society. But
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that we saw is how welcoming the community's been to it.
Awesome.
When we went through the process with planning and zoning in Minturn and then the town council, it was a struggle.
Okay.
At first, it was very frowned upon. Nobody had done this before.
Okay.
And there was a lot of pushback from the community based on what type of guest was going to stay there.
That's interesting because I would have never thought of that, but it makes sense.
Yeah, and originally they put a sunset clause on the conditions of how we were going to perform the first year, and we performed flawlessly.
Awesome. Okay.
We have really strict standards and guidelines on how we operate the business.
Cool.
So that's been something that's been interesting, but the biggest change and shift that we saw was when the pandemic happened. Mm-hmm. We had government regulations that shut us down, and we had to pivot. Our occupancy was in the toilet. So we actually converted for a time to short-term employee housing, and we still actually have a little bit of a mix of that.
That's cool to know. I mean, that's a really big thing. And because when you hear the word hostel, I have been all over Europe and stayed in hostels that I loved. And I wonder what is that some people just automatically think that's going to be not something, like you said, getting pushback, because I've never felt like that.
Yeah, I don't know where the pushback really.
Yeah.
I think it's just because it's something new. It's just like electric vehicles.
You don't know, right?
Right. Look at the electric vehicles haven't taken the market by storm because consumers are
scared.
They're scared
nervous.
to change.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think it was a similar
Kind
idea.
of feeling.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
But we really pride ourselves on running the business effectively through cleanliness. Anytime you walk in there, it is absolutely clean.
I've heard all of this, to be quite honest with you.
We do not allow guests to bring their own linen in.
Okay.
And we also have full-time staff that lives on property.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
all of the staff, they get free housing in exchange for one day of
Oh,
work.
wow.
So it's an environment where they work one day a week,
Yeah.
they get free housing, so then they have 6 other days a week to recreate and work a paying job.
That's awesome.
And we have really, really high standards
Right.
for how we operate. It's always clean, it's always
yeah.
safe, and it's a community where single travelers mostly,
Right.
or solo travelers that otherwise wouldn't stay in a hotel room because of
Yes.
cost, they get to find a community to connect.
I love that. And that's such a powerful point, and I love that you said that as well. Even if you're not single, but you're traveling solo, like you
Right.
said, or you're single, you want to have that safe space and to meet other like-minded people and maybe not always just go to the bar down the street, go and meet people that share traveling interests, hiking, maybe going to the bar. It's all kind of thrown in there together. I love that.
Yeah, and with that being said, talking about the solo traveler, that was one of the demographics that we identified early on.
Okay.
And a matter of fact, earlier this summer, I made a connection with a woman, Raylene Wooden,
Okay.
who started Mountain Connect. Raylene lives in Carlsbad, California, and I had reached out on this Facebook group, and
Yeah.
her whole vision and mission is to bring skiers and snowboarders together in community.
Love it.
And when I met Raylene, we created an ambassadorship, and now we're officially hosting buyouts at the Bunkhouse for skiers and snowboarders
So
or other
cool.
mountain adventurers
Yeah.
to come in a safe place
Yeah.
and to connect and find community.
I love that.
Yeah, and we actually had our first event the weekend of August 23rd, where we had 15 individuals that came from all over the country. They stayed.
So cool.
We had mountain biking and paddle boarding and
I'm so
and-
mad I missed out on that.
Well, there's going to be more events,
Cool.
and we're going to do a buyout in December, the first week in December.
Okay, that's awesome. And how can people find more information if they're interested in that before we talk about everything with your the
Right.
Bunkhouse? Is that going to be on a website?
Yeah,
or?
we post it through Mountain Connect's
Okay.
Facebook site.
Okay.
And then also on vailbunkhouse.com.
That's so cool. That's awesome. And speaking of, I love skiing. I talk about it nonstop. Everyone gets a little annoyed here, but I think that's so brilliant for people. I'm on a bunch of group chats with skiers, snowboarders, knowing they can come to Vail and they don't have to even crash at someone's house. Because I feel like a lot of times people feel they're being intrusive or, they feel like they're bothersome. And here's a great way that you could have your own space, meet new people, and get to go ride the mountain. That's amazing.
It's amazing.
That is so. And can I ask you price points, or is that all on the website?
It's on the website,
Okay.
but it all fluctuates based on supply and demand.
Right.
Typically in the summertime, it'll range from $50 to $75 a night for a bunk.
That's amazing.
And then in the winter times, we'll get over $100. And of course, the prices have gone up. We
Right.
had increased them just because of the
Right.
inflation that
Yeah.
we're
Oh, I
all
get it.
suffering from.
Yes.
So but we still, and that was the vision behind the Bunkhouse, is spend money on cool adventures,
You're right.
not expensive hotels.
Love it. As I've gotten older, I've gotten into that vibe more and more because I want to have the memories and not just the 7 hours I'm spending sleeping at the hotel, because I'm someone that wants to go do. I don't want to just sit at the hotel, and so that's neat. You get to meet people, be there and sleep and go spend money on adventures too.
Yeah.
That's neat. Let me ask you, are you able to bring in animals to the Bunkhouse at all, or is that?
You cannot,
Okay.
and here is
No,
why.
that's a good thing to, yeah.
We have a mascot, Diamond.
Oh,
My partner has a dog
Yes.
that lives on property.
Okay.
She's an American Terrier Pit Bull, and she is well trained,
Love.
and she is so lovely.
so if you're missing your animal, you get to have Diamond.
Yeah, but,
and hang out.
but
Yeah.
Diamond doesn't get along with other dogs.
No, I get that.
At times, but
Right.
she is amazing, and
I-
she lives on property.
Well, I love that. So if you're missing your pup, then you can play with Diamond and just
Yeah.
get your fill. That is so neat. So does the Bunkhouse, during kind of this season we're coming upon, during mud season, is it still going through mud season, or do you close for a little
We
bit?
don't close.
Okay.
We will close a week in May
Okay.
after the winter season, but in the fall season, we're still open for business.
Awesome. So like all the leaf peepers out there
Oh, yeah.
that want to come up from Denver. I'm excited. Now I have somewhere to tell my friends, because so often they'll want to come up, and I love that they want to stay with me, but sometimes it's not,
Right.
and I'll be like, I have a place for you. That is so brilliant. That's so neat. So where can everyone go and get more information about the Bunkhouse?
VailBunkhouse.com,
Okay.
obviously through Google, and we have
Cool.
an Instagram account, the
Yes.
Bunkhouse. And we're on Facebook.
Awesome.
It's pretty easy to find.
I'm very excited. I have had many friends stay there, so I know all the good stuff about it, but that's brilliant. Maybe I need a staycation one night. I'll leave with the dogs in Edwards and come on.
That's good.
Get a intern.
That's good. You should.
Thank you so much for sharing with us everything, and we're excited to check out the Bunkhouse even more.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. And keep it right here. We have more of the show to come.